Good afternoon, Professor Kano. My name is Rocky, and I will be delving into the resulting cycle that ensues from forced displacement. Rather than discussing the negative implications of forced displacement, I want to give power to the future that can be built from the dire circumstances that ensue from a forced move. Ultimately, it is in this way that I believe we can empower migrants and focus on a positive outcome from a negative situation. A will of one's own is a collage that I put together that I feel best captures the migration process. In this collage, I wanted to include 3 separate paintings from the mid-20th century that encompasses various emotions and processes found in the migration process. On the top left, we have an architectural design that represents how a migrant must think to successfully move into an unknown, unpredictable environment. Below that is a painting that captures an empty room with the wind blowing a curtain. This is from the vantage point of an open house where there is nobody left inside. This reminisces and represents the empty room that a migrant leaves behind and who is never to return. And finally, on the right, I included a painting of a patriotic individual standing proud and ready to take on a new life. Throughout this course, I learned what a border technically is, but honestly, it's so much more than that. And this sequence of paintings best shows the emotions and the after effects once that decision is bravely and boldly made to move. There are 2 key insights from my essay that I think are pivotal. One is that home is ever changing. As we live life and things happen beyond our control, we must make the best of our situation and our environment. As we've seen with immigrants who were forced to leave their own homes in the material that we studied. It is enforced that home is constantly evolving, and importantly, to really move past trauma and all of the negative and nasty things that come with forced displacement, I think it's best that we realize home is never stagnant. Home is never concrete. This leads to my second point, that the migrant decides what's next. As we see in Shire's poem, Home, and in so many other instances, it is up to the person to decide whether they're going to leave or whether they are going to stay. And powerfully, they have the chance to define what home can be. While contemplating and completing this project, I didn't necessarily learn this, but it was reinforced. As a military member for over 10 years, I know what it's like to have to pick up and leave a place that you thought was home. I'm just thankful that with this class, I was able to gain a better understanding of what it looks like in different cultures. And it gives me stories and experiences other than my own that I can lean on in times of strife. I chose to include a Padlet from our module that examined Reina Grande's memoir, The Distance Between Us. I find myself coming back to her memoir because it was easy to follow, but also deeply relatable. I enjoyed the growth she showed, and I appreciated the dynamic between her and her siblings, which in my opinion was vital and a major determinant of who she is today. I personally enjoy memoirs because they offer a first-hand experience of what we read about. Not only that, but the memoir offered examples of various borders that the migrant can experience. With Reina Grande, we saw economic borders that encompass poverty from the area where she grew up. We saw emotional borders that reflected her childhood trauma from when her mother and her father left her. And ultimately, and I think it's important to realize, is that we saw in the end how she was able to transcend those various borders and come out the other side a victor. It is in my opinion that Reina Grande's story is the quintessential and ultimate success story of the migrant. It is difficult to narrow down one source of inspiration from this course. As I discussed with Grande in the previous slide, her story was the one I kept coming back to, and it had a successful outcome. Shaun Tam took us through illustrations that put us in the shoes of the migrant who, in unfamiliar environments, might find it hard to communicate or even read. We were taken through several poems that shared the emotional toll, using language that varies among people of different cultures, races, and backgrounds. With that being said, I can't say that I have just one source of inspiration. I can, however, confidently say that I was able to take something from each poet, from each actor, from each writer, and even from those represented in statistics. I drew from each story, and from this, I truly believe that I am a better person. Before you is my works cited, The Distance Between Us, Ariana Grande. And again, I just wanted to thank you for the class instruction. It was really an honor and a privilege to be in this course. I'm thankful and I thank you. Goodbye.